On September 10, 2025, conservative activist and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was fatally shot while speaking on a college campus. The political world is reeling, and MAGA supporters across the country are calling this an act of war on free speech. Now, in this report, we'll break down what happened, what law enforcement is saying, and how the MAGA movement is reacting. With some groups already planning mass action, let's dive in. Charlie Kirk was shot at Utah Valley University during a Q&A segment of his American Comeback Tour. Authorities say the bullet came from roughly 200 yards away, fired from a rooftop near the Luce Center.
Raydon Dashid, she was at the event right now. She saw the attack. She's on the phone. Raydon, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If you could tell us where you were, what you saw, what happened.
Yeah, so I was clear up at the front. So they had the tent set up for where Charlie was going to be. And then they had the cattle grate set up with a walkway for the people that were going to debate him. And then I was the grate right behind it. So I was right by the walkway, so I was right up front.
And then what happened? When the actual shot was fired, where were you? What did you see or hear?
So I was, he was just talking to the second debater. And ironically, it was about the transgender shooter. And, they're talking about, not allowing them to purchase firearms. And he was talking back and forth with the guy. And then all of a sudden I hear up top, I see Charlie, I think it's got his carotid. I just saw him grab, it looked like his neck, and there's just blood pouring out everywhere. And his eyes kind of rolled back. And at that point, I kind of looked up because it sounded like it came up from behind me, up the hill. And it was just one pop. And then we all dropped to the ground, and then they told us all to run. So we all ran out. Yeah, I'm imagining pandemonium at that point. Did you see medical personnel attend to him, and what happened after that? By the time I looked up, he was already off. He was already out. He was already out of the tent. There were some police officers up there. There was a security. There was no metal detectors or anything for us to go through. They didn't even check our tickets. What about the gunman? Any sense of what became of the person? I don't know if it's a man or woman, the person who fired the shot? Nope, I didn't see anything. I just dropped when everybody else dropped, and then I ran when they told everybody to run. So you described it as a debate that was going on. So it was a debate between Charlie and someone else, or just a sort of a... Yeah, so he just proved me wrong. And basically, because he's a right-winger, and, he's very, very, very good at his debates. And he invites mostly college kids to go up and debate him. And, a lot of them were, had a lot of the same views, but there was something that may be a little bit off that they don't quite agree with. So they're just trying to, debate him back and forth on their views versus his. So it sounds like people from all points on the political spectrum. What about the atmosphere, the mood? What was it like leading up to that? Oh, man, we were all having fun. We were shouting, USA and Charlie Kirk, and listening to some, 80s music like Queen and that, and just stuff to pump you up. We're just all having a good time. Yeah, like a festival kind of atmosphere. I want to ask you about security. What was that like as you entered this area? And what kind of area is this? There was none. It was like, so when you walked in there, it was like a kind of in the crevice of the buildings with a bridge across it, and then behind it was like a grassy open area with a little bit of sitting that's kind of in the stadium seating, but it was like a little hill. And this is on the campus of Utah Valley University? Yeah. Are you a student there, or do you have an affiliation with the university? No, I'm old. I'm in my 50s, so a lot of these people were college-age students, but there was quite a few, actually, I would say, that were around my age, too.
Yeah. And where did you get out? You ran out of there. Where'd you go, and what did everybody else do who was with you?
We all just ran to our vehicles, and I don't know where everybody's scattered. I don't know if, some of them were students that, had to catch a bus or whatever. But the ones that had cars, we all ran to our cars. I mean, I parked a little ways away, so it was a little bit of a trek, but it was fine.
But again, interesting, as you point out, no security, open area right there at Utah Valley University. Radon Dasheen, I really appreciate your insight and your telling us your story. We thank you for that.
Police have not yet made an arrest. 2 people were detained early on, but later released. A bolt-action rifle was found nearby, believed to be the murder weapon. The FBI, ATF, and local police are jointly investigating the case. Officials have not confirmed a motive, but Utah's governor and several politicians are calling this a political assassination.
With Kirk's death, there are concerns about outdoor political events. Kirk held no official position in the Republican Party or Trump administration, but was a strong supporter. Eyewitness News reporter Kevin Ozebek is live in the newsroom and has more from a retired FBI agent on his warning to political commentators. Kevin.
Well, Giovanna, as one federal law enforcement source told me today, threats against politicians have been common for some time now, and they remain common. But here's why this shooting today is different. Charlie Cook, who was murdered today, held no elected position. He had no legislative power, and he also had no power to sign any executive order. He's just an activist, or was just an activist. But this is all coming as the FBI has been warning now for years that we are in this heightened time of threats. Just last year, around the same time when then-Candidate Trump was shot in Pennsylvania, the FBI sent out a warning that said it is seeing an increase in threats of violence targeting government officials, houses of worship, schools, and medical facilities, and that is just to name a few. Today, I spoke to a former FBI LA field office agent named Bobby Chacon. He says if he was advising an elected official or political activist right now, he would not want them speaking in any open outdoor venues. Take a listen.
If my job was to keep you 100% safe, that would be my advice. And I hate to say that. Certainly not an open forum where, like we saw Trump shot in Pennsylvania or Charlie Kirk killed today.
Such grim advice there, and for more perspective now on just how high the threat level is, listen to these numbers released just last week by House Speaker Mike Johnson. He says last year, U.S. Capitol Police looked into 9,000 threats against members of Congress. So far this year, we're in September now, there's already been more than 14,000 threats Capitol Police have had to look into. So just surging numbers there. Live in the newsroom, Kevin Ozebek, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah.
Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this question mark?" Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow," and a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
Reaction from the MAGA base has been swift and intense. President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, calling Kirk's death a national tragedy and warning, quote, "The left is coming for us all."
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody. Okay? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job.
So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
Turning Point USA labeled the killing an act of domestic terror. Online supporters have been using hashtags like Justice for Charlie, We Will Not Be Silenced, and America First to organize vigils and rallies. Some voices in the MAGA sphere are using extreme language, calling this a declaration of war, and urging supporters to mobilize. While many responses have remained peaceful, law enforcement is monitoring extremist forums and social media for signs of retaliatory violence or unlawful activity.
22-year-old Tyler Robinson has been identified as the key suspect in the fatal shooting of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. Mr. Robinson was taken into custody on September 12th after his father recognized him from footage released by the FBI during a nationwide manhunt and urged him to turn himself in, according to the BBC's U.S. partner CBS News. So, what do we know about Tyler Robinson? Well, the FBI declined to discuss his background, political leanings, or possible motive, saying the investigation was ongoing. A family member of Mr. Robinson said he had become more political in recent years during an interview with investigators, according to Utah Governor Spencer Cox, and had expressed negative views about Kirk during a family dinner. Public records reviewed by the BBC have him listed as an unaffiliated voter in the state of Utah, and Mr. Robinson was not enrolled at UVU, the site of the shooting. Records reviewed by BBC Verify suggest that he briefly attended Utah State University in 2021, but only for a semester. Investigators say Mr. Robinson was steeped in online culture, with casings believed to display references to online trolling humor as well as messages which could have been interpreted as sympathetic to Antifa, the left-wing anti-fascist and anti-racism movement. His roommate reportedly showed investigators a series of messages on the social platform Discord from a contact named Tyler referencing a rifle drop point and instructions on retrieving and hiding the weapon. For now, Mr. Robinson remains in custody as prosecutors prepare formal charges.
This comes in a broader context of political violence in the United States, where both sides accuse each other of incitement, suppression, and extremism. As the manhunt continues, MAGA organizers are planning nationwide events in Kirk's honor, including rallies, online campaigns, and speaking tours. Some GOP lawmakers are already drafting new bills around campus safety and political violence, while others are pushing for DOJ investigations into political censorship.
This morning, a manhunt is underway after conservative activist Charlie Kirk was fatally shot at a Utah college campus on Wednesday.
And joining us live now from our nation's capital is Scripps News Group's Washington, D.C. correspondent Stephanie Lieberg. And Stephanie, thanks for being with us this morning. We want to hear about the latest on the investigation and also how some of the major politicians there in D.C. are reacting this morning to Kirk's death, and including this, we're hearing about a change in travel plans today for Vice President J.D. Vance.
Hey, Andrea and Adriana, good morning. So yes, we just found out, according to a source familiar, that the vice president and his wife, the second lady, will be traveling to Salt Lake City, Utah today in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, instead of their previously planned 9/11 anniversary related travel. Now, as for the investigation, there is a manhunt underway, but we don't have any information on who exactly officials are looking for. The shooter is still unidentified. There were two people taken into custody yesterday, detained and questioned, but they have both since been released. And officials and investigators haven't provided any sort of information on who they might be looking for as the suspected shooter, who fired just one shot in hitting Kirk Kirk. Investigators say the shooter was likely on a rooftop as far as 200 yards away. Here in Washington, D.C., of course, the reaction to the shooting was swift, and there were bipartisan members expressing, of course, concern and thoughts and prayers for the Kirk family and all of their friends, anyone who knew him. But there were a lot of calls for the political violence in America to come to a stop. Now, Kirk and his Turning Point USA organization advocated for conservative causes at high schools and on college campuses, but his events were known for an open dialogue. A number of members speaking to Scripps News yesterday saying that, his events were about hearing from the left and the right, that he wasn't afraid to talk to someone who he disagreed with. Prime example being he was recently on the podcast for California Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, a staunch liberal on the opposite end of the political spectrum from Kirk and his conservative beliefs. But we got at least one member of the House Republican caucus who noted that it's politicians on both sides of the aisle that have a responsibility to try to turn down the rhetoric. Take a listen.
All of our elected officials have a responsibility to think long and hard about how they engage on these issues, how they talk about these issues. We can duke it out, we can have political disagreement, we can vote our conscience, but the rhetoric that is constantly used to demean each other, and both sides are painfully guilty of this, it's got to stop.
Flags are flying at half-staff at the Capitol and the White House. You can see the Capitol flag maybe just barely over my right shoulder. That is in order from a proclamation from President Trump signed last night. Flags due to fly at half-staff through the weekend into Sunday evening. But as I noted, the investigation ongoing, and I think we will hear much more about Charlie Kirk and his legacy and what might come next for Congress, or if anything is going to happen as a result of this shooting.
Yeah, local lawmakers here in Wisconsin reacting to this on both sides of the aisle, saying gun violence here, political gun violence needs to stop.
Yeah, a moment of reckoning for our country. Deeply disturbing. Stephanie, thank you for your time this morning.
Charlie Kirk's assassination has clearly shaken the conservative movement, and it's raised serious questions about the state of political discourse in America. Was this an isolated attack or part of a larger trend? Will this trigger broader unrest? And how will the MAGA movement use Charlie's death going forward? Leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know. Is this a turning point for political speech in the US, or a moment of tragic overreaction? Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll keep you updating as the story develops. I'm Mus'ab Mahmoud. Stay sharp and stay safe.